Next up is the lovely Yamina. Do you want to bring Yamina onto the stage for me, please, Richard? Hi, morning, Yamina. Happy International Women's Day.
Good morning. Happy International Women's Day.
And Yamina's juggling not one but two events. So she's doing two virtual events today, both representing Women Ed. Yamina, it's fab to have you here. Yamina's one of our diverse ed associates, but I've known Yam for 10 years now since we started Women Ed. So it's great just to be an audience listening to someone updating the Women Ed journey. So I'm going to disappear, Yamina, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Can I say Women Ed wouldn't exist without you and all the other co-founders. So thank you, Hannah. So I am here representing Women Ed. We're talking about the power of networks for existing and aspiring leaders. It's already been a really inspiring morning while I've been cleaning, getting ready for my iftar at 5 o'clock in the evening. So thank you to all the speakers so far. What is Women Ed? What's our mission? Our mission is for more women in education to have the choice to progress on their leadership journey. And for me, that word is really important, the choice. And choice is really important for women. And what are our campaigns? And this is developed, and Hannah will know this, but this is developed over the last 10 years, a decade of Women Ed. The first one is to increase representation of women in leadership roles. The second is to increase in diversity of women in leadership roles, so specifically thinking about the intersectional identities, reduce that gender pay gap, and then advocate for flexible working practices, which we've heard a lot about already from our wonderful colleagues as well. So what is the initial challenge? And this data is from the 2020 kind of reporting that was published in 2022, and this is slightly updated. But in this context, in primary schools in 2020, female teachers made up 85% of the workforce. I think this has just decreased by about 70, it's now 77, and that's compared with 74% of head teachers. In secondary schools in 2020, female head teachers made up 63% of the workforce. That was compared with 40% of head teachers. And then if we update that slightly, in 2019, female teachers were 14% less likely to be promoted to senior leadership kind of levels, and 20% less likely to be promoted to headship than male teachers. And that context is really important in terms of the work that Women Ed do, particularly when we go back to our kind of initial mission, which is to increase the number of women and to support their choices to be in leadership if they choose to do so. What does that gender pay gap tell us then? So in the school workforce census in 2022 and that research team, the NAHT, analysing that data. So while the gap for primary head teachers has slightly narrowed, dropping to 2,834 in 2020 and 21 to 2,221. That gap is actually still, for secondary school leaders, has actually increased by over 37% in the last year. And that's risen by that huge amount of 3,698. I'm sorry, but that's just not good enough, particularly when we think about how kind of female heavy our teaching workforce is. And in 2021-22, the difference in average salaries for head teachers aged 60 and over remains large, with men actually earning on average 18,296 more than women of the same age. That is ridiculous. And this is a 5% increase in the difference from 17,334 last year. It's just not good enough. And Women Ed really work on kind of reducing that pay gap as part of one of our campaigns. So let's have a look at this data from 2023 then. All British sectors still pay men more. And look at education, we're really at the top there when it comes to paying men more, 20.4%, which is again quite extraordinary when you think about how female heavy the workforce is. And that this would relate a lot to kind of that motherhood tax that was spoken about earlier by Emma and the colleagues from the flexible working team as well. And that's just the UK picture. Let's go into the kind of global picture then. Really developing leadership capacity for the future, global need, is actually one of the greatest challenges we face. And we talk about this a lot at Women Ed. And what our kind of campaign does and what we're really thinking about is how we harness that potential of the full global workforce. And Women Ed has actually really kind of expanded our scope and expanded the work that we do from the UK all across the world. So it's now an international charity organization that really supports kind of increasing women in leadership if they choose to do so. And then look, here's another kind of image of that gender pay gap. And when we look at that global picture, oh, here we go. The UK is again at the top of that. I mean, it's quite extraordinary when you think about the difference between the average gross hourly earnings of men, male versus female employees. And here we are, 19.9. And this was data referred to 2018. And I'd be curious to know what it's like now. As we move into one of our campaigns around increasing the diversity of the teacher workforce, particularly female kind of leadership, this is the data that we're thinking about. And that intersectional identity is really important to Women Ed, and it's one of the kind of key campaigns. When we're looking at the applications, and I'm going to actually show this because it's something that I'm working on, particularly in my new role, on a project, really trying to increase the number of ethnic minority or global majority teachers in the profession. Look at this. It's not that we don't have ethnic, people from the global majority wanting to apply for jobs or wanting to be in the teacher workforce. What we've actually got is the fact that they are rejected at every stage. It starts from the initial teacher training, and that continues all the way into senior leadership. So we have an overrepresentation of people from Black, Asian, and other racially minoritized groups applying to be a teacher, and actually they are rejected. The retention even on ITT courses is lower than their white counterparts or their white peers, and that just continues all the way until the top. And this is something that we are looking to address at Women Ed. One of the things that we're doing actually is really thinking about that coaching and how coaching can really support. So like diverse educators, Women Ed are also working with CVP coaching to really provide that as well. I'm just aware of time, so I might move on to this. But one of the key kind of things that we think about at Women Ed is our values. And we have 8 kind of values. We call them the 8 C's. I'll give you a moment to have a look at these. I always call Hannah Wilson, but Hannah talks about kind of connection being a key part. And for me, this is one of the kind of values that really stands out to me, because for me, Women Ed has provided me with those connections. And I actually discovered Women Ed through Hannah, through Twitter and through Hannah. And by following Hannah, I was able to engage in that work. And I'm now Women Ed network leader in London. But another kind of key value of ours is that around that building confidence. So taking every opportunity to be 10% braver. And I'll talk a little bit later about what that's meant for me and how that I really try to embody that as a Women in Network leader, as a teacher, and as a leader now within the profession. And then really thinking about change and challenge. There is no point in being kind of a teacher and leader if we're not trying to highlight those systemic barriers to a more inclusive and diverse leadership. And that is what Women Ed is trying to do. It's really one of our key values, along with change as well. And we try to collate as much evidence as possible of the impact on developing an inclusive, diverse leadership. But we know diversity in leadership and having more women in leadership is great for the workforce. And it's also great for our young people. There's a fantastic kind of montage or a graphic that was created way back in 2017. I remember seeing it in one of the Women Ed Global conferences. But we're always thinking about how we're connecting existing and aspiring women leaders to increase that diversity. And as part of Women Ed, I will say, come and join us. We want to continue building our community, and community is, again, a really important value. We can't do what we do without the community around us. And as a Women Ed Network leader in London, that is one of the key things that we're thinking about, is how do we continue to help build our community and help ensure that we've got safe spaces to support each other. So we're thinking about how we grow that network. And I want to ask you these questions for ourselves as well. We're always thinking about how do we ensure that the spaces and the communities that we're creating is inclusive, it's diverse, and it's collaborative in terms of the community. And at Women Ed, we ensure that we have global conferences or unconferences and events that ensure that there's diverse representation at all levels. I also want us to think about how we share that leadership experience, and what does sharing leadership experience actually look like within our community, and then really thinking about what the potential barriers and solutions are to develop a meaningful community. And these are the questions we ask ourselves at Women Ed, but I'm also asking you here today. And you may have come across, you hopefully have, but Vivian Porritt is one of our co-founders and is one of our global network leaders. always asks us really think about how we can be 10% braver, and how do we celebrate it when it happens. And we do use the hashtag 10% braver as well on social media, but you can blog, you can use videos, posts and tweets, and you'll see that on our YouTube channel. You can follow us on the socials, and you'll see how Women Ed has supported and really tried to galvanize women to be 10% braver, but also really celebrated women in kind of teaching who have really tried to kind of build that confidence within themselves. And also, if you don't know, we have 3 books that are published, written specifically by the hashtag Women Ed community. So please do grab them. They're all in all great major bookshops, but also on Amazon, I should say. And one of the ways in which we advocate for women who've gone kind of the extra mile, have really tried to build their confidence and embodied those kind of 8 values, is the Rising Stars. Working with We Are the City Rising Star, and I was very lucky enough to win one of the Rising Star Awards in 2021 as representing Women Ed, and it was a real honor. But you can also nominate a Rising Star via this link as well. You can do that on LinkedIn. These are all the different ways in which you can connect and communicate with Women Ed. Please do grab us on our socials. Sound like a PR person, but that's what I love to do. But you can email us if you are seeking some support, if you're looking for coaching, if you want to connect with one of the Women Ed community, please do email us. We'll be able to respond. Really do kind of look at that website. There's lots and lots of information there as well. But if you don't know, I'm a LinkedIn social media kind of person. So please do also connect with us on our socials as well. But we also have a huge amount, I think it's like 300 now and counting, blogs on our website, and I've written a few about how we can really try to galvanize women to be in those leadership positions. It's not that we don't want to be there, it's that there are so many concrete ceilings and glass ceilings that are stopping us, and Women Ed's kind of really try to support women to get into those rooms. And then also, sometimes we say if you aren't given a room, grab your own chair and or start your own table. And that's what we're aiming to do. That's definitely what I'm aiming to do as a Women Ed Network leader in London. I'm just aware of the time, so we're thinking about our impact. In terms of Women Ed, I'll give you a moment to have a read of these. Women Ed provide that moral support, as Elizabeth says in her quote. She actually, through that support from Women Ed, during her full-day interview, she was able to ask for breast milk pumping facilities and was surprised by how supportive the head was. And now she's the head of sixth form. We've also got lots of examples of this, but I always talk about my Women Ed story and how Women Ed supported me. This is some of my leadership journey. I need to update it now that I've taken a slightly different direction, but I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for Women Ed. If I hadn't connected with Hannah all those years ago and followed the Women Ed story and really connected with the Women Ed community, I wouldn't have been 10% braver to then apply for a leadership practitioner position, to then apply for an assistant head position, and to actually become a deputy head, and now moving into this field as well of working in project management and working kind of in the education sector in a different way as a coach and a consultant. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't discovered Women Ed through Hannah and if I hadn't connected with Women Ed. And I always say, for me, it's about surrounding myself with women who uplift, who empower, who advise, who support, who advocate. And these are my women. There are so many more, but these are the 4 women that have really been a part of my Women Ed story, but also my professional and personal kind of journey. Booker Yusuf is, for me, the first person I saw on social media who looked like me, who wore hijab, who really represented kind of my intersectional identity and has continued to coach and mentor me. Hannah Wilson, as I said, has just been a real advocate, uplifting, championing, and also when I can't write a book, helps me and supports me and provides me with boundaries and accountability. But I love that, and I wouldn't be here without Hannah. Vivian Porritt, one of the co-founders of Women Ed, really supporting and uplifting and championing me, saying my name like Bookie and like Hannah in a name, saying my name in a room full of opportunities. And it's not the only reason. They just uplift, they inspire, they empower as well. And then Tamina Begum, my former head teacher and who's currently head teacher at Haggerston School at Forest Gate Community School, just really showed me what was possible. I never wanted to be a head teacher. I never thought it was possible until I saw Tamina do it. And for me, Women Ed provides that connection and community as well. So If that hasn't inspired you, I hope some of these will. But please do connect with Women Ed on our socials, through our email, and we're really excited to have you join us and be part of our kind of 4 key campaigns, and also see how we can continue to support more women in education to have the choice to progress in leadership if they choose to do so. Thank you very much.
Yamina, thank you. It is hard to squidge a 10-year journey into a 10-minute talk, so don't worry that you fill up the Q&A time. It was just fab to hear about Women Ed, but also how it's impacted you. I think I should just pay you to do my PR for me, Yamina. You are so good at the kind of the advocacy. And Yamina definitely says my name on my behalf in rooms I'm not in, as I do for you as well, Yam. So I'm going to let you go and get off. Have a lovely special time with the friends and family tonight for your festival, your celebration. Great to have you here today. I'm going to pass straight over to our next speaker, if that's okay. But I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, babe. Take care. Bye. Thank you.